you've got wrestling stories, and then sometimes it doesn't matter. Sometimes you realize you're just along for the ride, and no matter what your preconception of something might be, you're interested. You just have an interest level. Now look, Tiffany Stratton and Charlotte Flair come to the ring on Smackdown. Wade Barrett is there to make sure things don't get out of control. And I thought, when I first saw him, I thought, oh man, I wonder why they're dressed alike. If you're in a match with each other or you're promoting a match with each other, I would think opponents wouldn't want to dress alike. But then real quick, I forgot about all of that. Real quick, what I thought that this criticism that I would have, that would be all about the whole thing. I mean, it went right out the window because the whole segment went right out the window. It was a wild, wild scene. You had Charlotte on one side, you had Tiffany on the other side, you had things being bandied about. You had Chicago being Chicago, which, by the way, Chicago should always be Chicago. But I mean, a lot of people, especially coming off of that, it left a lot of us going, what did we just watch? I don't know what it was. I mean, it was tense. You had that feeling. So sometimes, like, you watch a segment and it's like, it's uncomfortable. But the reason it's uncomfortable is because there's this palpable tension. And the more you think about it, the more you're like, yeah, maybe that's a good thing. You know, I don't pretend to be in the head of any performer. I don't pretend to have any idea what's really going on. All I can do is watch. And I will say that the fact that there was a real, I mean, palpable tension between Charlotte Flair and Tiffany Stratton, and the fact that immediately afterwards, people were like, oh, you got to cut a podcast on this immediately afterwards, just waiting for Notsam to say something about Tiffany and Charlotte, kind of tells you that whatever was happening, it did something. It definitely got interest up. So, you know, Tiffany and Charlotte are out there, and this is coming off of the dual box segment that they had 2 weeks ago on SmackDown. But Tiffany and Charlotte came out there, and I don't know if things got off the rails. I don't know if it was supposed to feel like things got off the rails, but they really didn't. I don't know. I don't know if they didn't expect the crowd to react the way the crowd reacted. Just real quick, it felt like there was a visceral animosity that was going on between these two competitors. And real quick, you got this feeling like, I know this is all a show, but I'm not sure if this is part of the show. And for me, whatever, as long as it's building to a match, as long as it's building to a story, I don't know. A part of me thinks that might be okay. Like, people are genuinely interested. Like, here's the thing. Was everything that was said, was it helpful to the cause? Probably not. Did everything that gets said needed to be said? Probably not. What was planned, what was not planned? I don't know. But did it leave me incredibly curious, I'll say, for lack of a better term, for what is actually going to happen at WrestleMania when these two meet? Yeah, it really did. And that was my whole thing, right? As I'm thinking about this, I go, look, at the end of the day, I feel a tension between these two competitors. And that tension is going to carry over to the match. This match that on paper, what I thought I saw was just like, okay, Charlotte's back. She's winning the Royal Rumble. You have this person who gets compared to Charlotte, who's like the next sort of big top star, against the current top star, like the first real sort of blue chipper, if you want to call it that, to come from NXT, versus the latest blue chipper to come from NXT. And all of a sudden, over the last 2 weeks, it develops into something much more personal. Now, I think that is something that you probably even want to explore going forward, because you know that, like, that tension is going to spill out in the ring. Real, not real, show, not show, script, not script. It doesn't matter. That tension is going to spill out in the ring. So I think that is something that we're going to see, we got to see in some way, shape, or form expanded upon. You know, I think a lot of people were caught off guard by the segment. But what I heard more than anything else, and what I think I felt the same, was that as much as people were caught off guard by the segment, people were also like, you know, I'm more interested in the match. I wasn't sure that this was going to be one of those big matches that I'm interested in seeing explode in the ring. And now all of a sudden, even though I don't know quite what that was, I'm more interested in seeing it. And there's something to that. You know, ultimately, there's something to that. And that is part of kind of the new way of telling stories. That how do you work in a way where everybody's aware of the story that's going on? You have to play with reality sometimes. And sometimes leave it uncomfortable. Sometimes make uncomfortable television that people can't look away from and that people end up wanting to expound upon, that people want to see more from, that leads to people wanting to see a WrestleMania match. Because now all of a sudden, Charlotte and Tiffany feel like a WrestleMania match. This no longer feels like the old guard versus the new guard. This no longer feels like the winner of the Royal Rumble challenging the current champion. This feels like something different. This feels like there is something that we are not aware of going on between Charlotte Flair and Tiffany Stratton that goes beyond the sort of, you know, game pieces that have been set going towards WrestleMania. You got two Smackdowns headed there. And I mean, if it were me, I'd go, yeah, let's turn this into, we already have the WWE Women's Championship. You already have this sort of first, I don't know, icon to come out of the NXT Women's division versus the latest icon to come out of the NXT Women's division. Like, you have all of that foundationally, but to find out that there's a real problem or that there's a perception that we have of a real problem, I kind of feel like that's something that you have to play with. And maybe not every ounce of territory that was traveled in that segment need be traveled again, but the feeling that it gave you, that to me is what it's all about. The feeling that it gave you, the interest that it developed in this rivalry, you can't really deny it. You're there now. You might as well benefit from it, right? You might as well take it all the way, because at this point, you're going to have something. And look, I think a lot of people, I think Tiffany Stratton's going to get cheered and Charlotte Flair is going to get booed. What you saw in Chicago is going to be amplified even more in Las Vegas. And that's not something that you're going to change on the way to WrestleMania. That's just the way it is. But you have the opportunity in the women's division to have this match where one person is insanely cheered, one person is insanely booed, and you can create a story within this match that people truly believe they want to tear each other limb from limb. And at the end of the day, that's what wrestling is all about. You know, you go back to telling wrestling stories. Well, what if in 2025, I could convince you that these two people want to tear each other limb from limb? Is that something you'd like to see? Is that something you'd like to buy a ticket to? Yeah. Yeah, I want to see two people that really want to tear each other limb from limb. Now, for the sake of everything moving forward, let's hope they don't actually want to tear each other limb from limb. But, you know, we're there. However you want to put it, we got there.